When I first started learning how to play the guitar, there was one chord that nearly made me give up. It shows up everywhere and it's not easy, but today I'll show you how to master it and strum one of the most famous songs ever written, Let It Be by the Beatles, with confidence. Hi, my name is Abe Allen. Welcome to day 5 of the Learn Guitar in a Week challenge. Here's what we're going to be tackling today. I've got 3 steps. First, we're going to learn some new chords. Specifically, the new chords we're going to be learning are E major, A minor, and F major, which is usually the chord that makes a lot of guitarists quit learning. Step 2, we're going to learn a little bit about music theory. Don't be afraid. I'll make it simple. And then step 3, we're going to put it all together by learning the song Let It Be by the Beatles. So when we get to music theory, step 2, don't stop the video and don't be afraid. This is just a little bit of music theory, but I'll try to make it as simple to understand as possible. Let's start with step 1, learning the E major chord, the A minor chord, and the F major chord. Okay, so we know the E minor chord, and the E major chord is not much different. We learned that E minor was just our index finger and middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A and D strings. Let's strum that. E major is very similar. Check it out. Instead of using our index finger and middle finger, we're going to use our middle finger and ring finger to play the A and D strings on the 2nd fret. And then we're just going to add our index finger to the 1st fret of the G string. The E major chord is one of the nicest sounding chords on guitar. It uses all 6 strings and has a very full sound. Again, here is the E major chord. You could even play the E minor chord just using these 2 fingers. All right, the next chord we're going to learn is going to be A minor. Here's something really cool. A minor looks exactly like E major on the next set of strings. So here is E major, A minor. You're just going to pick up all 3 of your fingers and move them down 1 string. And here's A minor. We're going to strum from the A string down. Let's try plucking the notes of the A minor chord 1 note at a time. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Again, 2, 3, 4. As always, if any of those notes sound plunky, one of your fingers may be touching a string it's not supposed to. What I want to do now, before we learn the F major chord, is I would like to just practice going back and forth from E major to A minor, let's say 2 bars each, but we'll just strum once. So we'll strum 1 time, let each chord ring out for 2 bars, which would be a total of 8 beats, and then we will move to the next chord. Okay, we're going to start with E major. Here we go. 2 bars each. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. A minor. 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to E. 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. End on E. 2, 3, 4. E is a really nice sounding chord. Actually, if you move it around a little bit, you may have noticed this sound. It's sort of got like a Latin sound. You can actually move this E major chord around. And do that. That's kind of cool. Anyway, next we're going to learn the F major chord. The F major chord is often taught in a very difficult way, or taught how to play in a very difficult way. At least when I was taught it, it was very challenging. It's typically taught looking like this. And I'm even struggling to play this chord right now because your index finger has to press down all 6 strings. I've got a simplified version of the F major chord that you might not find in other places. Typically, you're going to see that version, which is very challenging to play. The F major chord I want us to play today has the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, your pinky on the 3rd fret of the D string, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. The low and high E strings will stay muted. You will not play those. Here it is. Let's try plucking the notes of that chord one at a time. For step 2, I want to talk about the song that we're going to be jamming on later today, which is Let It Be by the Beatles. The chords to this song in the verse section are C to G to A minor to F. Now, these are the only chords in the chord progression that we're going to be playing today. When the song gets to the chorus section, they switch order a little bit, but there are no other chords that are introduced in this song. So let's practice strumming C to G to A minor to F. But before we do, I want to show you a technique that you can use to make switching from chord to chord super easy. Maybe I shouldn't say super easy, but a lot easier. And this is going to involve learning a new fingering for the G major chord. So here is a C major chord. If we're going to switch to G, we have to pick up all of our fingers, and even if we're playing the simplified version, we have to move all of our fingers to get there. Instead of playing G that way, for this chord progression, we can actually play it slightly differently. Here's C. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my pinky to the 3rd fret of the high E string and move my ring finger to the 3rd fret of the low E string. And there is the simplified G with a different fingering, but it's a lot easier to move from C to this G than picking up all of your fingers. So let's check that out again. C, G, C, back to G. Now I can switch from C to that G a lot faster than I can switch to the other G. If I were to do the other fingering for G, okay, that was sort of equally fast, but if I really had to time myself, which I'm not going to do in this lesson, it would be way faster and easier to go to the first G. If you want to use the other fingering that we learned for G, feel free to do that. You can do that. But here is an alternative, and it was the alternative that you saw in the beginning of this lesson when I was playing the G major chord. I was using that alternate fingering for G major. All right, so let's get some practice now switching between the chords of the verse of this song. We're going to go C for 1 bar, G for 1 bar, A minor for 1 bar, and then F for 1 bar. Now in the actual song, the chords are only 2 beats each, but for practice, we will play them 4 beats each. Here we go. Starting with C. C, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, back to C. 2, 3, 4. G. 2, 3, A minor. 2, 3, F. 2, 3, back to C. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, A minor. 2, 3, 4, F. Let's play the progression one more time. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. Going to A minor. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. Now let's end on C. All right, nice job. Hear how that new F chord really completes the sound and how all of these chords sound great together. That's because these chords belong to the same family of chords. So now step 3, we are going to talk just a little bit about music theory. In particular, we're going to be talking about keys. Here's the big idea. A key is just a set of 7 notes and 7 chords that sound good together. Every song uses the notes from a key. For example, the key of C major contains the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And it contains the chords C major, F major, G major, and A minor. It doesn't contain an A major chord, it contains an A minor chord. And that's why Let It Be works. That's why it sounds good. Every chord in that song is from the same family or the same key. Now, this song, Let It Be, could be played in a different key with different chords. Why would we do that? Well, if the melody is too high or low to sing by a vocalist, the guitarist may choose to change keys, maybe to a higher key. For instance, the key of D is higher than the key of C, which this song is in, so maybe the song would be performed in the key of D rather than the key of C. On day 6, in our next lesson, we're going to learn how to use a capo to easily change the key of a song. Our Learn Guitar in a Week series is focused on learning to play the guitar quickly, but I'll share more lessons on music theory if anyone is interested. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in videos like that. But before we get to our play along jam, just remember a musical key is just a set of 7 notes and 7 chords that sound good together. For the song Let It Be, it's in the key of C and uses 4 of those chords from the key of C. Now you may be wondering, well, what are the other chords? And that will be a discussion. What are the other chords in the key of C? And that will be a discussion for another video. All right, we've now arrived at our jam session portion of our lesson. Let me talk about the chord progression for this song first. For the verse, the chord progression is C, G, A minor, F, and then it's C, G, F, C. That's the entire chord progression for the verse. For the chorus, we start on A minor. So the chorus begins with A minor, and then G, which I can use the simplified version, a lot easier to move to from A minor, F, and then C. The chorus continues with repeating the C major chord, going to G, F, and then back to C. Okay, feel free to back up the video, run through those chords again, play along with me where we're practicing the chords in time, and play through the jam session multiple times. You can even slow it down. Like I've mentioned, you can move it to 0.75 speed by clicking the gear icon at the bottom of this video. All right, I hope you're ready. We're going to play together the song Let It Be by the Beatles. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Excellent job. So today you added E major, you learned the chord F major, and we also strummed through A minor. So we learned 3 new chords and one of the greatest songs ever written, Let It Be by the Beatles. You also learned your very first bit of music theory, which I hope wasn't too scary to you. Actually, some people really like music theory, but you learned about the idea of keys and the idea that a family of notes and chords live together in a single key, and that's what makes a song like Let It Be, which uses chords from the key of C, sound so good. Tomorrow, for day 6, we'll build on this with one of the coolest tools in your guitar case, the capo. I'll show you how the capo allows you to change keys without learning any new chords. You can basically play any song in any key using a capo. And together, we'll play the song Free Fallin' in its original key, just like the recording. We didn't learn it in the key the recording was recorded in because we'd need to use essentially a capo to do that. We're going to do that in day 6. I look forward to our next lesson together. Take care.